Sitting in a rocking chair, who's got the best beagle dog in the county, I've been told. But his shotgun done got too rusty. That old beagle dog, he done grown a little too old. As he stares up into heaven, I'm sure thinking about that promised land in them blue ridge mountain skies. And it's a lonesome feeling in my mind, a feeling I can't seem to leave behind. Carolina's where I'm at, and I'll always hang my head under those
Well, welcome back. It is Monday, and this is Bold Like a Leopard. I do a lot of these like random streams just to stay back in touch with people, let you know a little bit about, how things are going. So in terms of projects, I think there's going to be a few book reviews in the next few weeks. You'll notice a lot of the content that I've been doing is more geared now towards reviewing books that I find interesting as opposed to reacting to current events literally every day, which is the way it was for a long time. And I think that was a necessary change for me. This stream is going to be a little bit more about some current events. There's only 4 topics I was going to talk about today. The NFL, so the NFL weekend, I promise I'm not going to get too deep into it. I know some of you could give a shit what happens with football. What happened with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi getting killed by the U.S. Special Forces, I believe it was Delta Force. Some of the polling, so I'm not actually going to use any visuals today, but I'll be probably consulting the Real Clear Politics data. And then I know a lot of people are into YouTube drama. I am not going to take a side and tell you who I support because honestly, I don't think that I owe any of these people anything. But we're going to discuss a little bit of the Nick Fuentes, Charlie Kirk controversy, which I think is, we've seen these types of things before, and personally, I don't think it really advances any broader goal that I have or that I think most people have. I think obviously it advances a goal that Fuentes has and maybe detracts from what Kirk wants to do. But whatever you think, you can put your comments after the stream, or you could tell me in the chat. I try not to. By the way, if you're censored in the chat, there's not much I can do. I'm sorry. I can try to catch it when I look over. And if your comments are censored, also, it really is YouTube. They'll put the fucking comments for like a week in this likely spam tab, and I don't even see them. So even if you're trying to talk shit against me and you say, well, what's wrong with you, Bold? You're supposed to be pro free speech and everything. I am, but this is on YouTube, and I have no control over that. So when I do look over to it, I usually do uncensor it and restore it, but that can take a week. I'm not really doing YouTube all the time at all. Even, I do have time to do it, but it just isn't rewarding, and there's no real the only rewarding thing is staying in touch with people that I enjoy staying in touch with. Some of the viewers, sometimes some guests, things like that. But it's just not going anywhere. And I'm not a person who pretends that it is. So I think we'll talk first about what happened with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. So this was a person who, from all the sources that I've seen, he'd already been in U.S. custody a long time ago, back in Iraq. He'd actually been an officer in the Iraqi security forces, the Iraqi army, back in the years and years ago. Or many of his supporters had been, and he'd been allowed to escape, or he'd left U.S. custody sometime in the mid 2000s, and eventually his organization ended up becoming a much more potent threat in the region, Iraq and Syria, than did Al-Qaeda itself. Now, there's a lot of people who like to say, well, in reality, he's some sort of psyop. He was backed by McCain or whatever. Whatever the case, we're talking about a person who should have never been allowed to go free. And I would say we have to recognize that this keeps happening over and over again, and people keep enabling these people to do what they do. And the money and resources that arrived in his hands to be able to do the things he did, not just during the ISIS flare-up, which happened under Obama, but prior to that. People like to excuse Bush, and they say, well, Bush dealt with ISIS. He dealt with, or wasn't necessarily called ISIS at the time, it was just called the Islamic State of Iraq. They like to say, well, he had it all bottled up when Obama came into power, and Obama let it all go. Well, you can also take a look at it and say, what the hell? The man was in custody and he got away. And so did many, many of the people who ended up becoming ISIS followers. So, no, I'm not really going to just, get like a huge hard-on over the fact that we killed him. Obviously, I congratulate the military and, the people who ordered it, Donald Trump, people like that. I'm not going to equivocate about that. I hope he doesn't make the same mistake as President Bush did and that President Obama did. Obama, by the way, also released a bunch of Taliban terror chiefs during the whole Bro Bergdahl thing. And surprise, surprise, the Taliban has increased in its strength. So the first problem is, so you don't get the wrong idea, the first problem is that we go and we wage these conflicts and take over these large areas of countries that are thousands and thousands of miles away. And then we sort of let the conflict fester and rejuvenate certain organizations that are hostile to us over there and create a pretense for why we would stay there for a longer period of time. So I am happy he's dead. I don't sympathize at all with anyone associated with him. I think, obviously, we don't want to see people suffer, but, you get what you paid for, I guess, Mr. Baghdadi. I mean, there's no way that we can go around the world and, A, pretend that we are the world police, we're Team America World Police, America fuck yeah. And then the other option is these idiots like Jeremy Corbyn who believe that we should allow the cancerous beliefs of people like him to get into the Western world. So I think that it's fully appropriate to take this as a lesson that we should minimize immigration to the lowest extent possible, to the lowest level possible, but to the highest extent we should limit it to people who are qualified to come here for professional reasons and can be screened to not be security threats, and therefore the majority of those people, I think, would not come from countries like where Mr. al-Baghdadi came from. They'd probably come from countries like, I don't know, friggin' Korea or whatever. Fuck if I know. But the idea is this. You can't have people who simultaneously they claim that we're fighting the most poisonous ideology in the world, which they say is Islam. Okay, they don't like Islam. But at the same time, they have no issue with the intake of large numbers of immigrants into the country, including many people who are of that religion. So it's a contradiction. You have to pick one. So my proposal is this. We don't get involved in those countries. And I'm not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. I think my view is actually pretty common. I think even people who don't like me and disagree with me probably agree with this. We don't have this involvement in as many of those countries as possible. Excuse me. I just had coffee. But we do try to, I guess, negotiate trade on the best basis possible with the countries there that it makes sense to trade with. I'd say at the moment, the countries that it makes sense to trade with there are Jordan, Israel, Egypt, Morocco, maybe Algeria. Tunisia is not a bad country. And that means trading with them. It doesn't mean we basically run the country for them. And anytime that their governments have an issue running the country and keeping people from, we don't run their security. We're basically not going to be the world's bouncer. That's really what it means. They want us to be the world's bouncer, a lot of these neoconservatives. And you notice, this is something that was pointed out many, many times by a lot of people, that a couple weeks ago people were throwing a massive hissy fit saying, well, if we leave the region, ISIS is going to flare up and come back and destroy us. And then suddenly, now that their leader was assassinated, and presumably that causes at least a symbolic problem for them, which you know, in that part of the world, symbology is important, right? So they now are playing these retarded games, such as that Donald Trump informed Russia first, as if informing Russian forces who could possibly become a hindrance, because they would say, well, why are American forces in our sector? Instead of appreciating the fact that you need to notify forces that could be hostile in a bad situation, you make this about, oh, he was actually coordinating with Putin, as opposed to our elected officials like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. What does the legislative branch have to do with a raid against a terror leader? It makes absolutely no operational sense. A person who is, so I want to understand that. Suppose Barack Obama had called Mitch McConnell before the raid against Osama bin Laden, and he'd said, hey, we're about to kill Osama bin Laden. What contribution could Mitch McConnell had made? Or John Boehner, the House, the Speaker of the House. What possible contribution could he have made? It just doesn't compute. So I think you know, there's plenty of other issues that have cropped up. There was the ridiculous Washington Post obituaries. Let me see here. So there's a meme for Washington Post obituaries, and I think it was pretty funny. I have to find it on Twitter now. Sorry. This was supposed to be a very quick stream. I think it's going to take about a half hour. I hope it's going to take only a half hour, because I'm trying to get a few things done today. It would actually probably have made more sense to do this on Wednesday, but I do have likely a stream a little later today with a couple other people. Just My Stupid Opinion and Johnny Vito will probably be concerning Canadian election issues. So we did have some. Let me see here. The Washington Post face. Okay, so there's this. So yeah, here it's Washington Post obits on Twitter. It's pretty funny. So Jeffrey Epstein, local philanthropist and mentor of young women, dead at 66. That's one. Good parodies. Julius Caesar, world traveler, died surrounded by his friends. That's a good classical one. Theodore Bundy, Republican activist, law student, and known lady killer, found dead in Florida. That one's a little too literal. That one's by Mickey Weiss or Mickey White. Jim Jones, world traveler, religious preacher, and cocktail enthusiast, dies at 47. I really like that one. Adolf Hitler, artist, thinker, and social organizer at the helm of Nazi Party, dies peacefully at his wife's side, age 56. There's actually a good Norm Macdonald sketch about this, or it's not really a sketch, it's just one of his like wacky sort of monologues. Lee Harvey Oswald, former Marine, devoted marksman, dead at 24. They're really picking good ones here. What's another one? Joseph Mengele, 77, who pioneered new medical techniques without regard to conventional limits and made Brazil his home in later years, passes away. So there's a lot of great, and I like this. I like that. That's, I think, the good thing. That's what the media should be treated as the point of our mockery. They can't be given this exalted position where they can claim that they know better than us. So yeah, just type it into. You know what? I'll let you guys type it in if you are on Twitter right now, and go look at it. Put your favorite one in the chat, and while you're doing it, please like, share, and subscribe to me. So next topic, we're going to talk about the NFL. I didn't lead with the NFL because I knew some of you would stay away. Some of the big takeaways from the weekend. Let me actually pull up the NFL results, but I'll do like a start. The Kansas City Chiefs, I think, are going to have a real problem holding on this season. I'm not quite sure when Mahomes is going to come back, but if you look at the rest of their division, I don't think they necessarily have to worry about Oakland or what are they called? Oakland and Denver. Those two are in the pits. But now that they've dropped 3 in a row, you're going to see this challenge come from the Chargers. And I think the NFL should be worried if the Chargers make the playoffs. And I think that they might have even made the playoffs last year as a wild card. And if you haven't noticed, Chargers games are very sparsely attended. Or if they're well attended, they're attended by opposing fans because nobody in LA cares about pro football. And if they do care about pro football, it's mostly, they might be rooting for the Rams. They might be rooting for an out-of-town team like the Niners or the Raiders. It's just not a very popular sport in LA. Chicago is literally falling apart. That team is headed to the toilet. I think the Mitch Trubisky era is really in crisis. I see my friend Arjun is in the chat. Thanks, man. Sorry I haven't been in touch. Maybe you'll watch later with, I think Adrian and I are probably going to be streaming a little later if he's still available. So Chicago. Chicago got upset at home this weekend by the Chargers, a team that itself isn't very well put together. And they lost on a missed field goal at the last second. Again, just like last year in the playoffs against Philadelphia. So, yeah, the Bears are going to have to move on from Mitch Trubisky. He is wildly unpopular in Chicago. And Matt Nagy, the coach who led them to the playoffs last year, I think he led them even to the division title, the NFC North. he is going to have to make a crucial decision, I think, at a certain point to bench Mitch Trubisky or risk getting fired at a certain point. The Bears are a disaster at this point, and I know, this could come back to bite me in the ass because the Bears are playing the Cowboys in a few weeks, and maybe by then they'll get themselves back together, and we'll lose another game to a team that's a complete mess. Speaking of teams that are a complete and utter mess, the Falcons are going to be firing Dan Quinn this year. I'm pretty sure of it. I don't listen to a ton of sports talk radio, but it sounds like the people of Atlanta, which does have like a huge fan base, they are tired of Dan Quinn. They're tired of having to, watch this guy who was supposedly the architect of the Seattle defense before he came to Atlanta. His defenses aren't worth anything. They're getting completely owned week in and out. So he's going to be fired this year. I have virtually no confidence he's going to survive the year, unlike Matt Nagy in Chicago, who might survive the year. You see the two New York teams are just a disaster. You'll notice I'm not talking about Dallas this week because we didn't play. Next week we're going to be playing the Giants. The Giants have dropped 3 games in a row, and their rookie sensation, Daniel Jones, has kind of laid an egg the past couple weeks. He didn't have an awful game this week against Detroit, but you have to understand the guy has turnovers left and right. Let's even look at his stat line. I'll get in here real quick. Let me just silence this tab. So Daniel Jones he didn't have any interceptions this week, but he had another fumble. He's had a lot of fumbles. That's really been the problem with him. He got sacked 3 times, but you know what? Daniel Jones, I think, given time, he could become a starting quarterback in the NFL because he's a true rookie. The other New York starting quarterback right now for the Jets is what's his name? Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is done as far as I'm concerned. I am livid. I'm so angry that of the teams that he played this year, he beat my Dallas Cowboys because he has looked like garbage every other week. I have nothing against the Jets or their fans. I have a lot of Jet fan friends. But he was so overhyped coming out of college. And I don't think he deserves to be in. For one thing, he was supposed to be a first-round pick. He was supposed to be the first overall pick. He was out of USC. He didn't do anything of any significance at USC. So, no, I think that Sam Darnold is he's in his second year, and in 2 years the Jets have gone nowhere. They have a new coach, Adam Gase. I don't think Adam Gase is going to want to stake his career on someone else's quarterback who's been a complete dud his first 2 years in the NFL. I mean, the Jets have been just awful. The only saving grace this year, which is not really much consolation, is that the Dolphins are much worse. Even though it's really a difference of 1 win in the record, you can see that there's a point difference. The Jets have scored 107 less points than their opponents. Miami has scored 148 points less than their opponents. So it's still 41-point difference between them in terms of the number of points that they've scored, but it's still a pathetic team in New York, and Miami's going to get the first-round pick next year. So, yeah, New York is coming out of this with absolutely nothing. I know that they traded one of their defensive linemen to the Giants this week. I guess the Giants are trying to beef up against, they're facing Dallas this week. They didn't do too well against us week 1. Hopefully we'll be able to, easily beat them again. I hope that people don't, take this game lightly, because if we knock out the Giants this week, they are not. First of all, their season is completely over. As of right now, they're 2.5 games behind Dallas. If they lose, they're going to be 3.5 games out, and I think that they're even going into the bye week soon. So yeah, I think that's it for the NFL. Sorry for all you that don't give a shit, but fuck you. I should get to enjoy this too. You know, it's my show and I get to pick the topics. So yeah, you're gonna hear some NFL bullshit, especially now that politics has been completely removed from the NFL. Polling in the Democratic primary race. We're going to go through, first of all, the country as a whole. Biden has a 5.4 lead according to the aggregate. He's at 5.4 ahead of Warren, but that is an illusion. That's a complete illusion right now. If you look at Iowa, which is the first caucus, Warren has a solid 5-point lead against Biden, and Biden is soon going to slip into third place behind Peter Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend. So you're going to have Biden basically come in third, I believe, in Iowa, possibly in fourth. I think Bernie could possibly come in either second or third. I think that the real race right now is who's going to come in first and second. Is it going to be Warren, Buttigieg, or Sanders? And then Biden has no chance of that. So Biden is going to hit the floor very, very fast after Iowa. You're going to go to Nebraska, and Warren also has a lead over there. Sanders is in third place. I think that as the polls close in Iowa, we're going to see a lot of people in New Hampshire paying attention to that. And once a race actually happens, once the actual ballots are counted, or in that case, the hands are counted because you're in a caucus room, you're going to basically see all the air sucked out of the Biden campaign, and he's going to be just collapsing. The only state that he's leading in right now is, well, let me see, is he leading in Nevada too? He is leading in Nevada by 4 points. I think that if he can pull it out in Nevada, he can keep his campaign going. South Carolina, I believe he is still leading by a healthy margin. That will for sure change after Iowa and New Hampshire. He's going to be losing some of his strength to some of these other people. But you know what? While we're talking about it, South Carolina is an important state, and so are a lot of the other southern states that are in the country. You're going to be seeing a lot of people wondering what's going to happen in some of these early primary states. If you're able to capture votes in the South, where the overwhelming number of black Democratic voters are located, in some of these states, for example, South Carolina is an excellent example. I believe over half of the Democratic voters are from the black community. If you go to Mississippi, it's the same thing. If you go to Georgia and Alabama, it's the same thing. The Democrats are very dependent on the black vote in all of those states. And if one person can start to pick up a lot of delegates in those states, or majorities in those states, it could become very difficult to dislodge them at the convention. So keep that in mind. That might be Biden's only saving grace. If he can stay strong in South Carolina, he might be able to stay strong in the rest of the country. Let me take a look at the chat real quick. We have Donatello here. Donatello, I think Donatello used to be known as Stormy Daniels. So Stormy Horseface Daniels, not to be confused with the porn star. But yeah, welcome, man. So, talking about this Nick Fuentes thing, let me just say that I don't agree with Nick Fuentes on a lot of things. I think that he should. Let me see here. Arjuna is saying maybe Ilhan Omar should run with one of the Scott. She can't run for vice president because she wasn't born here. She was born in Somalia, so she's done. The highest office she can get is, I believe, she could be in the cabinet, but she couldn't be in any of the executive offices Like, she couldn't be in those two offices, president or vice president. She could be a senator. That would be fine for her. I don't think she's gonna be garnering a lot of support for it. 1 second. Let me just text Adrian because I need to see. We have to confirm the time, so. Maybe I can let you guys know. Yes, rest in peace, Stormy Daniels. Anyway, so the Nick Fuentes versus Charlie Kirk thing. So I'll try to explain as best as I can, and then I'll try to give my opinion on some of the core issues of it. Nick Fuentes is a person who is one of these very, very hardcore tradcons, as Styx Hexenhammer calls him. He's a person who is he's against these thoughts, these thoughts, THOT, these internet sluts who go on Snapchat and sell guys pictures of their boobs and sometimes their pubes and stuff like that. So that is I believe that's like his main selling point, that he's a very staunch religious Puritan, and he's into Catholicism and all of that, and he keeps saying that Western civilization is really being downgraded by sexual promiscuity and stuff like that. So that's a part of his religious beliefs. And I'm not trying to disparage them or anything. I personally don't care about anything that he says, but good for him. I guess he does well on the internet. And you have Charlie Kirk, who is I think he's the CEO, or he's like a very, very senior person at Turning Points USA. He might even be the founder of it. And so Charlie Kirk is, I would say he's become more and more of this mainstream conservative, if he ever was anything besides that. And these people are very judgmental of the fact that he claims that he's America first, but he is not exactly very strong on building the wall at the southern border and restricting immigration to the lowest extent possible. And the fact that he also supports foreign aid, especially foreign aid to Israel. So that's the summary of the dispute. And what's been happening is that at various events put on by Turning Points USA, some of Fuentes' followers have been showing up and asking him very pointed questions, and including ones where they've asked him, hey, why are you in favor of us giving essentially this you could call it corporate welfare to American defense contractors in order for them to sell weapons to the Israelis, and therefore, you still label yourself America first. And I haven't been able to find a lot of clips that are, they show like a good response from him or like a very well articulated question. And I think that the problem that I'm having is that it's not really, Arjun is asking, am I doing... First of all, fuck Ben Shapiro. And yes, I'm always wearing it, Arjun. And happy Diwali, motherfucker. But yeah, Ben Shapiro. I didn't even want to mention him because this whole thing is about how being negative on YouTube to other YouTubers doesn't really do anything. It doesn't get you anywhere. But yeah, fuck him. Ben Shapiro. The problem with this whole debate is that, yes, they're scoring points against Charlie Kirk, and that's a fair pursuit if you don't like him personally. I'm not gonna be one to tell you, oh, don't pursue a personal vendetta. Treat other people as you would want to be treated. The golden rule. If you want to be a disgusting piece of crap to other people, I am not going to stand in your way. I have no care in the world to whether you are a nice person or not. There's, Medicare is a horrible person. His show is sometimes pretty funny. I have no problem with him. But no, fuck Ben Shapiro. I'm just kidding. I actually don't care. I don't like Ben Shapiro, but the reason I don't like him is because, I think he is kind of this. I would say that I agree with some of the people who say that he's also one of these fake conservatives and things like that. But it's not like I dedicate my entire show to telling people, go to Ben Shapiro's events and ask him provocative questions in order to get him to flip out and leave. Okay? I think that personally, Ben Shapiro is, he's not my favorite YouTuber, but once in a while he puts stuff out that is interesting. There's certain cases where it seems like he's kind of one of these religious authoritarians too. I think if you really think about it, the personal beliefs, the personal philosophy of Ben Shapiro and someone like Nick Fuentes is not as different as they would like you to believe. The only difference is that Nick Fuentes wants to make you think that he would never accept corporate money. He's this pure as the driven snow booster for Catholicism, and I love the the Holy Cross and the Sacred Heart of Christ and everything, and that's his whole gimmick. Everything about he'll go on his look. If you're a Fuentes fan out there, I don't care. Go ahead. I'm just saying that if the situations were reversed, he would take the money too. He would sell out the same way as Ben Shapiro. It could be that maybe he was offered something and he turned it down. Maybe I'm wrong. It could be that he's been trying to get the same opportunities as Ben Shapiro, and they won't give it to him. It's a personal dispute. It has something to do also with Fuentes doesn't exactly like the Hebrew people, and I'm not going to tell you not to watch his channel just because he doesn't like me. I mean, I don't like him. Should he tell people not to watch the Bold channel? It would be we'd all be like basically in a circle jerk of boycotts, right? So, getting back to the original topic, you have all these fanboys for Nick Fuentes have been going to Charlie Kirk's events and asking him how he can support the continued subsidy of the Israelis through this foreign aid. Let me just see if Adrian responded to me. Sorry, guys, I have to set this up. I'm not going to leave you hanging like Charlie Kirk. Okay, you can rest assured. Also, welcome, Black Hebrew Israelite. That's right. By the way, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch most of Hard Bastard stream today. So yeah, I've just been texting two different people to set up this other stream that we're going to do more about Canada. We've been putting it off because of people's schedules. So, as I've said like for 12 times already, you have all these people who have been going to Charlie Kirk's show, and now at Politicon, I believe it was yesterday, he actually had security guards prevent Fuentes from entering, and then he also had the mic stand removed so there couldn't be any Q&A. So yeah, that's definitely a bitch move on the part of Charlie Kirk, and I think that Fuentes does have a point when he's saying that regardless of how obnoxious Fuentes is, you do look like a bitch if you're saying, hey, because one person is bothering me, I'm going to eliminate any chance that anyone's going to confront me over a topic that I feel uncomfortable about. And that's I think the concrete position here. I think if Charlie Kirk is so serious about being a freedom of speech guy and battle of ideas, why can't I appear on campuses, things like that? And I give him credit. I don't know if I could go in front of live audiences like he could. I have like a very you just heard me coughing, stuff like that. I get very easily distracted. I'm better writing stuff. So I think it's been great what Charlie Kirk has done in the past, but obviously a huge weakness has been exposed on his part, a weakness where he can't explain a position that's inconsistent. And I've been consistent about it to a fault. And it's not exactly something that's endeared me to anyone. First of all, so I believe that foreign aid has to be ended, especially to any country where we're consistently sending money and that money is being used in order to buy arms from our companies. It's basically just it's corporate welfare, pure and simple. I don't believe in it. A lot of people have been calling me an isolationist for it. Those are people who are more on either the neocon side or they're simply pro-Israel. And other people who they hear me say that, they still call me a Zionist chill and stuff like that. And it's like, you know what? Fuck everyone. Fuck everyone. That's my message to all of you. Especially, who don't I like today in the chat? Well, Impex hasn't done anything to me. But yes, fuck everyone. That's it. So you can't if you want to be consistent, you don't get any points for it. You basically end up being hated by all the sides. And I think that Charlie Kirk doesn't have a choice to be consistent. If he came out and said, well, I support Israel, but I don't believe in the foreign aid, he would still be orphaned because it wouldn't be enough for Fuentes. Fuentes has an actual ideological opposition to Israel, and I don't think it's really about. It's not about. So Donatello Slapafello wants to be given the fuck you for today. So Donatello gets the fuck you for the day. So congratulations, buddy. I don't think it's going to become a tradition, but the topic is just kind of funny. And then I think this will be the last thing I discuss for today until the next stream, and we're going to just end this stream for now. So this is still on the Fuentes topic. I am completely supportive of people going to these forums and asking very uncomfortable questions of anyone, including Charlie Kirk. However, I want you guys to just take this point for what it's worth. When you send people to conferences where Charlie Kirk is appearing time after time, and you keep asking him the same question over and over again, it's the same thing they were using to do. They used to do to Peterson. They used to go to Jordan Peterson's appearances and say stuff about the pronouns. Why won't you support pronouns? Why don't you? People were asking him, why don't you address the JQ, stuff like that, and it was over and over and over again. And they kept saying he's dodging the question, and nobody, he's obviously hiding something, and he's part of Agenda 21. What happened? Absolutely nothing, because what you have to understand is this isn't an ideological battle. It is in a certain sense, because yes, you're trying to catch Charlie Kirk and get after him for something where you think he's being dishonest. Absolutely understandable. But when you do it over and over again, day after day, and you try to make this into some sort of ritual where every single appearance that he makes, you ask him, well, why do you support Israel first? Why are you a MAGA guy? Why? How can you be America first and Israel first at the same time? At a certain point, people start to realize that that's all that you're about. And people start to filter it out because it's part of the noise. Nobody cares anymore. And, you might remember back in 2017, there was this big meme about R-Trap's gay. That was pretty strong for months and months and months. And then eventually it disappeared. The whole R-Trap's gay joke stopped being funny because it was a played joke, right? Just like the "Where's the Beef" joke from the 80s. There was something that I was doing for a while, if you're just talking about my channel, where I was making these videos about Farrakhan feminism, and I thought it would be a huge hit. And it did turn out to be a huge hit because, I couldn't get the exposure for it. But at a certain point, you have to make the conclusion that while you think that you've caught someone and basically battered him or her, I'm against domestic violence, so don't clip this fucking part. But you've gone after someone as much as you can, okay? And you've shown them to be a hypocrite. Good, great. But the more you harp on it, to look, if I was to write a book about how someone's a complete fraud, I've written the book. Move on, okay? You have to. Let me just uncensor BHI's comment. You have to decide at a certain point, is your life about promoting the things that you believe in, or in promoting the reasons that other people are wrong? And that's really all that I can say. Other than that, I appreciate all the people who have been watching this channel, regularly. Obviously, Arjun said, "Oh, there hasn't been a live stream for a while." Well, there's probably not going to be another one for a long time either, except for the Adrian one. So sorry. And also the new people, BHI. I know that you watch the HB show, E. Michael. So that's about it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also subscribe to me on Minds.com as well as BitChute. I might upload this to BitChute. You can also find me on Subscribestar if you want to throw a few bucks my way and help me build my evil empire. I will make Shapiro look, honest by comparison. I will be so grifty that fucking Larry Flint will blush when he wheels his fucking chair by me. That's how awful and corrupt I'll be when you send me a couple nuggets by Subscribestar. That's a promise. Also on Gab. So most of those I'm on at Chef Leopard. So you can find my handle here. And on Gab, it's at Starscream85. Do you guys want to hear the music again? I know you're really into that that Southern rock. The Marshall Tucker Band, right? I'm just stalling because I think I closed the tab and I can't find it now. Damn it. All right, fuck you guys. I'll put the music on when I find it. Have a good night.
It's a lonesome road and a hard way to live, but it's the only life that I know. I meet some people traveling around, but home's always the best place to go. And it's a lonesome feeling in my mind, a feeling that I can't leave behind. sitting in a rocking chair, who's got the best beagle dog in the county, I've been told. But his shotgun done got too rusty. That old beagle dog, he done grown a little too old. As he stares up into heaven, I'm sure I know the reason why. He's a thinking